What's up everybody, this is Danny, and today this is the camera comparison that you've been waiting for. The brand new Pixel 7 Pro in the middle, then we have the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and then the Galaxy S22 Ultra. So you're looking at cinematic video from these two here, but the Pixel does get cinematic video, but it looks like you can only do that from the rear camera. But I just wanted to show this off. Let me know what video looks better, and let me know what microphone sounds better, and then we're going to test these three flagships out, and we're going to see if the Pixel can take these two out. Let's do it. So let's not waste any time and jump right in and go into the daytime pictures. All of these images are shot in auto to show you the pictures that everyone can get. So this is exactly what you can expect. The first thing that I noticed right away is the different approaches on all of these three cameras. Sometimes all three look very similar, but if you look, the Pixel always tends to have a red tone to the images. Usually the S22 Ultra leans towards the colder or blue side of white balance, and the iPhone tends to land warmer with more of a yellow tint. When you crop into the image, you can really see what I'm talking about. Look at how pink the building and the clouds are on the Pixel 7 Pro. Once you notice it, it's really hard to unsee. If you look at all of these daytime shots, you will notice it. There is this pink or red cast over the entire image. Now, the good thing is that most people won't notice this because they aren't going to be comparing other cameras side by side with it, but it is something that I would love to see Google improve with software updates. Besides that, they all have different approaches to dynamic range, colors, and white balance, so I think this will be heavily based on personal preference. But honestly, it does go back and forth. Most of the time, the S22 Ultra goes brighter with the crisper white balance and the brightest shadow detail, so I think the general public will really like what's coming out of the Galaxy S22 Ultra because it is the brightest and ready to share right to Instagram. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, a lot of times with the most contrast, you can see it in the shadows, but it does give it the most dramatic type of look, so if you like that, you will favor the iPhone. The Pixel 7 Pro in this one is right in the middle, so fans of the Pixel processing will favor this look. If you care about what I prefer, a lot of the times I lean towards the Galaxy S22 Ultra's daytime pics because this is the look that I like on family photos. But instead of nitpicking, let's just go over the particular features of the cameras and which one does better. So let's start with portrait mode. You can see that the Pixel 7 Pro is cropped in heavily even at its first option, so you will need to back up if you want a wider shot like you can get with the other two cameras. When it comes to cutting out the subject, the Pixel 7 Pro surprisingly does the worst on my wife's hair. Take a look at here. It also did the worst on the sunglasses test here too, where the S22 Ultra did the best, and the iPhone just didn't nail the focus this time around. But even when you use the 3x from the iPhone and the S22 Ultra and the 2x on the Pixel, the over sharpening is just insane on the Pixel 7 Pro. I don't remember the Pixel being this harsh normally, but this one is a great example. All have different approaches in portrait style, brighter on the iPhone where the Samsung looks most balanced overall, but when you punch in, just look at how over sharpened the Pixel is. I really hope that Google fixes this in future software updates because I am not a fan of the over sharpening. Next, let's talk about resolution. The Pixel 7 Pro does have a 50 megapixel sensor, but there's no way to take full advantage of that just yet. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 48 megapixel capture with Pro RAW, and the Galaxy S22 Ultra has a 108 megapixel mode for high resolution captures. Crop in 500% scale, you can see that the S22 Ultra has the best overall shot, but the Pixel is surprisingly keeping up in terms of detail, and the iPhone is the least sharpened because that is Pro RAW. Here is just a shot of the ground that I was standing on at the time, and I thought this would be a good test. 500% scale crop in, you can see the extra detail on the S22 Ultra side. Right behind it though is the iPhone 14 Pro Max and then the Pixel, but in reality this is going to be very specialized because I know that most people probably don't use the higher resolution modes for everyday shots, but it's nice to have the access to all of that resolution that your camera can capture. So let me know, do you guys use these modes? Next up is a zoom test. There is the main sensor shot from each of these phones and they all look good. The next option is a 2x crop from the iPhone and the Pixel, where the Galaxy S22 Ultra goes straight into the 3x for its first zoom option. Then the Pixel 7 Pro does 5x for the telephoto option, and there is a 3x to match on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. There is the 10x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra, which is awesome. The iPhone's image is exactly what I expected out of a 10x digital zoom shot, but the Pixel 7 Pro's is really good. It's much better than I thought it would be. There is the max zoom on the iPhone at 15x, 30x zoom on the Pixel, which is arguably the best, and the S22 Ultra at 30x hybrid, but the cool thing is that the S22 Ultra can go all the way up to 100x zoom, which really isn't usable, but it's neat to have anyways. Now, I did want to test out Google's claims of having better zoom clarity in between the telephoto lenses, so I took these next shots at weird zoom levels. This one is at 2.5x, and it's hard to tell the difference here, but going into 7x zoom, you can start to tell the difference. The Pixel 7 Pro does look sharper and retains more detail. The Galaxy S22 Ultra here at 8x zoom does pick up a little more detail, but is more over sharpened than the Pixel 7 Pro shot, so here I prefer the Pixels. And I think the 7x shot really shows the difference between the three. The speedway sign is fine on all three of them, but pay attention to the background when you punch in. The clarity of the people in the background on the Pixel 7 Pro retains almost all of the detail, which is very impressive. Next, let's look at the front-facing camera. Again, these definitely have three different approaches. I do love the fact that the Pixel 7 Pro has a super wide front-facing camera, and you can still use that full field of view even on portrait mode, which is nice. The iPhone 14 Pro Max does need some updates on balancing of HDR. The priority is definitely on brightening up my body and face, but the background is completely blown out. The S22 Ultra is somewhere in the middle, but very warm on the white balance, and the Pixel 7 Pro is the darkest, but does better at balancing the bright areas in the sky. Switching to portrait mode in this same scenario shows pretty much the same thing. The dramatic look of the Pixel is nice, but it's a little too dark for my liking, and again, the red tint is so heavy, but they are all showing their faults. Every scenario brings a different result. I think this is going to be personal preference. Like here, I like the iPhone 14 Pro the best. It has the best overall approach in my opinion, but with the HDR issues again, like here in the car, I would have to lean towards the S22 Ultra, but here I like the Pixel 7 Pro the best, so let me know which one that you think has the best skin tone and balance on these front-facing camera shots. To me, it all just varies in the scenario of which one does better. So regardless of which one of these phones that you get, it's pretty hard to be disappointed in any of them. Yes, they have their differences and they go back and forth when it comes to white balance, brightness, and colors, but daytime photos are pretty much great on most flagship phones these days. You need to consider things like zoom options and camera features that are important to you. I know video might be a deciding factor in the buying decision too, and I listened to you guys on Twitter to make the video comparison a separate video, so that is coming next, where I will compare the video features of all three of these cameras. Okay, so let's jump right into nighttime or low light photos, and I'm happy to say that the low light exposure time on the Pixel 7 Pro has improved dramatically over the Pixel 6 Pro. A lot of these same traits move from the daytime to night, especially when it comes to the Pixel 7 Pro. Not in all shots, but in most, there's still that red cast throughout the image. I don't think it's as prominent as it is during the day, but this camera system still needs to be tuned. To be fair, it's still early, so I don't want to make this a main focus. And the reason why is I can show you that it's not a huge deal because sometimes the Pixel 7 Pro at night can give you the cleanest white balance when it meters right. The Galaxy S22 Ultra goes super warm in this one, so they all make mistakes. And in this one, the iPhone is accentuating the yellow cast coming from this light, so it will vary which one takes the most accurate shot. The thing that I did notice is how well the Galaxy S22 Ultra does when it comes to dynamic range. Look in this window where the Pixel comes in a close second, but the S22 Ultra did the best. And this one here isn't as obvious on this stairwell, but you can see that it retains more detail here. Now this one is pretty clear. The lights on the building really show you that you can clearly see the craft sign on the Galaxy S22 Ultra, where the Pixel lies kind of in the middle and the iPhone doesn't do as well in this scenario. But overall, I found the S22 Ultra to balance the best in these type of scenarios. But here's a few downsides. I noticed that haloing can still be an issue with the S22 Ultra processing. The other two do a much better job. And still, I noticed that the S22 Ultra in darker conditions ends up with the noisier shot. You can't see it super well until you punch in, but you can see the noise here in the sky while the other two do a better job. I want to show you what a shot without night mode looks like. The Pixel 7 Pro with the darkest shot, but there it is with night mode and all of them brighten up the scene nicely, but the Pixels is the most dramatic out of the three. I like the fact that the Pixel 7 Pro does give you a more accurate looking shot without night mode, where the other two give you a brighter shot right off the bat. Again, it all varies on which one gives you the brighter shot, so it will be personal preference of which one that you like better. But I like the pixels here because it's the most balanced and it looks more like a night shot. These I took on a tripod so I could get the maximum exposure time. This is 9 seconds on the Samsung, 6 seconds on the Pixel, and 4 on the iPhone. And you can see the difference in the exposure time and details when you crop in. Impressive sharpness and detail on the Pixel and Samsung. This one here was the longest exposure besides astrophotography, and while the results are nicer on the other two phones, the iPhone did a good job for such a short exposure time compared to the other two. I definitely had to test this one, astrophotography mode on the Pixel 7 Pro. This was over a 3-minute exposure, and the Samsung had 30 seconds, and the iPhone also had 30 seconds, which I believe is the maximum exposure time. And when you punch in, the Pixel had the cleanest shot, no doubt. It is really amazing, but the iPhone seemed to do the second best here, which is pretty impressive for that short exposure time. When it comes to people and skin tones at night, they all have different approaches yet again, but dang, the Pixel really accentuated this blue light coming from the House of Blue sign. It is there on the other cameras too, but it really shows up here. I wish the crop wasn't so heavy on the Pixel 7 Pro for the first option, but it did a great job of producing the most accurate shot in this scenario, where the iPhone gives you the best ready to share shot out of the camera. They all have night portrait mode, and it was dark enough to trigger all three here. The S22 Ultra is clearly the brightest with the super HDR and over sharpened look, but I really like the Pixel 7 Pro here. That skin tone is so nice, and the iPhone does have the most accurate shot here in this scenario. It really does look like that, but the crisper white balance choice of the Pixel makes it the most shareable. The iPhone here again with the most accurate shot, balancing the harsher yellow lighting coming from the string lights. The S22 Ultra goes a little too warm here, and the Pixel really goes cold to compensate the yellow tones, so let me know which one that you think looks better. The front-facing camera pretty much does the same thing, where the Pixel goes colder to give that crisper white balance. Take a look at my shirt. While it might not be the most accurate, it arguably is the most pleasing. But I do like the Pixel 7 Pro's front-facing camera at night. I think it's very consistent, and I love the wide angle on it. In this super dark scenario, it definitely had the best outcome with skin tone, contrast, and highlight control over my face. So I'm digging the front-facing camera on the Pixel 7 Pro. Moving on to the ultra wide angle, I don't see a huge difference in quality between the three, but I'm so glad the Pixel this year has an ultra wide camera that is actually wide. It looks very close to the other two when it comes to getting as much as you can in the frame. I did notice the night mode on the Pixel 7 Pro is more aggressive in certain scenarios to brighten up the scene as much as possible. Also, again, that lean towards super crisp white balance. And you know I had to show that infamous moonshot. The Pixel 7 Pro's 30x zoom can capture a decent shot of the moon, and it actually captured cloud detail too, which is pretty nice. But the S22 Ultra all the way up to 100x. It's pretty cool that you can do this on a smartphone. So there it is. This is how the Pixel 7 Pro stacks up against the best out there, the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I think finally we have a Pixel that can compete all around, but they really need to fix that red cast on their images. So Google, if you're watching this, please do that for the Pixel users. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is a baseline that I will always use for a benchmark, so I expected it to do well, but I really have to commend the Galaxy S22 Ultra here when it comes to photography. During the day, I think it's the most flexible, and the dynamic range is fantastic at night. I hope Samsung can get noise under control with the S23 Ultra at night, and if they do this, it's going to be a great year for Samsung. But let's just say this, smartphone cameras are just so good now. It's a great time to be alive, and if I have to nitpick this hard to show you the differences, you will be happy with any of these in your pocket.